Welcome to Sureway English PTE Super Series, lecture number 7. Today's topic is Read Aloud. Make sure that you watch this video till the very end. In this video, you will learn the perfect method step by step. You will get some excellent advice, tips, and solid practice. And you can use that to boost your score and get a perfect score in your PTE exam. So make sure that you pay attention to this video and watch it till the end and follow all the instructions. To begin with, we'll start with a question and we'll do one question together, and then you will have a few more questions for practice. Okay, while doing this one question together, we'll follow all the steps that you should follow to come up with a good response to read aloud questions. So here's your text. Now when you see this text on your screen, you will have something like 35-40 seconds to read the text, prepare yourself, and then another 35 or 40 seconds to give your response. The very first thing that you should do immediately on seeing this question on your screen is to make a note of the punctuation marks. So your eyes, they should quickly go to the full stops, the commas, the other punctuation marks, because that's an indication of where you will need to pause, right? So at a comma, at a full stop, you will need to pause, and those are also the points where you can raise and lower your voice. So raising and lowering your voice at the proper places, it makes you sound more natural. It makes it clear that you have actually understood what's important in this sentence, what to highlight, what to pay attention on. So that's why intonation, or the raising and the falling of your voice, that is very important, along with the pauses. So make a note of the punctuation marks. After that, break the sentence further if needed. So the punctuation marks, they are obviously one place where you will be pausing, breaking the sentence. But if the sentence is longer, or it's got words like and, but, however, etc., then you can use those words as additional points where you can pause or break your sentence. So in this example, where we have a double slash, that's where we are going to break the sentence again. So after Brazilians and after cod, just before and, we are going to break the sentence again. So breaking into smaller chunks. If you read a whole sentence, a large sentence in one breath, in one go, you will sound like a robot. It won't sound natural. So that's why we pause at the punctuations, and in addition to that, if the sentence is long, we also break it down further. So backslashes, etc., helps with that. So that is your second step. Break the sentence further if needed. If, however, the sentences are small, right, then your commas and the full stops, they might be sufficient. Then you don't need to break them any further. Okay, the next step is rehearse any difficult words. So any words which sound a bit unfamiliar to you, just try to pronounce them in your mouth, try to rehearse them. So for example, christening, champagne, or if there's any other word that you find difficult, just try to rehearse it in those 40 seconds. If, however, you're finding it so difficult that you can't come up with a proper pronunciation, then just make a decision that I will just make a guess. So if, for example, it's christening, let's say you're finding it difficult to pronounce this word in any way, then just any other word which might sound similar. It's Christmas was accomplished with. The idea is that you don't pause. Okay, you shouldn't hesitate when you are reading out your response. It should be smooth. There shouldn't be any unnecessary breaks, any hesitations back and forth. That shouldn't be there. So that's why if the word is unfamiliar or you are totally unable to pronounce it, then just make a best guess and just go with that. After that, you will give your response now. So you know where to pause, you know where to you have broken the sentence into additional pieces. You've also rehearsed any difficult words. Now there are three things that you need to pay attention to when you give your response. First is where you're going to pause. So at a full stop, there should be a brief pause. At a comma, there should be a pause. Then emphasize. Which words are you going to emphasize? So, words which carry significant meaning. For example, in this case, temporarily suspended. You can emphasize that. Then you have to raise and lower your voice. So when do you raise and lower your voice? When you are, let's say, ending a sentence, coming to a full stop. That's when you will lower your voice. Okay. After a comma, so at the commas, if you are reading out a list, for example, in this case, individuals from Brazil, the French Navy, and a Russian gunboat. So, the list, you will raise your voice except for the last part, which in this case, the Russian gunboat. That's where you will lower your voice. If you are asking a question and if that question has a yes or no answer, then you can raise your voice. For example, will you go to the party tonight? Right? So when you are ending it, because this question, will you go to the party tonight, that has a yes or no answer. So that's why when I'm asking that question in the end, I'm raising my voice. If it's a normal question which doesn't have a clear yes or no response, then I will lower your voice. So at the full stops, you have to lower your voice when you are ending the sentences, right? When you're reading a list separated by commas, you have to raise your voice except for the last part. For your questions where you have a yes or no answer, you have to raise your voice. Alright, so keep those things in mind. Pause, emphasize, raise and lower your voice. And now, based upon that, we can give you a response. So in this case, it can be something like this. Its construction was temporarily suspended by the Brazilians while they modified its design. It was launched after a ceremony that was attended by individuals from Brazil, the French Navy, and a Russian gunboat. Its christening was accomplished with an electronic button which sent a signal to cut a cord and let a bottle of champagne break on the ship. So I've tried to keep these things in mind, the pauses, the emphasis, and the rising and lowering of my voice. And hopefully, with that, we will have a good response. Okay, so we've gone through all the steps one by one in solving these questions. Next, what I'm going to do, one after another, you will have a number of questions. The first 40 seconds to prepare yourself, and then the 40 seconds to give a response. So make sure that you record your responses maybe in your mobile phone or in computer somewhere, so that you can compare them with the sample responses in the end. So after the questions, we will do a review and we will look at the sample responses. Before that, let me quickly reiterate the points to keep in mind. Note the punctuation, break the sentence into smaller parts, rehearse difficult words, pause at appropriate places, emphasize important words, raise and lower your voice as we have just discussed. Keep these things in mind, and let's go to question number 2. The first 40 seconds to prepare your response and the next 40 seconds to give your response. Now you have to give your response. Alright, so that's the end of question 2. Let's go to question number 3. Let's go to question number 4. Question number 5. Go ahead and review the questions. So the question number 2 first. This was the question, and I've shown you the steps. So single slash, that's where the punctuations were. Double slash, that's additionally where we chose to break the sentence. Then couple of difficult words, I've highlighted them in bold. So probably those words, they needed some rehearsing. And then if you do that, a good response should be something like this.
According to historians, the precursors of modern cakes were first baked in Europe. At that time, cake hoops, round molds for shaping cakes that were placed on flat baking trays, were popular. They could be made of metal, wood or paper. The first icing was usually a boiled composition of the finest available sugar, egg whites and flavorings.
Let's go to question number 3. Please note, the punctuations, the steps that we have followed.
The trade winds are the prevailing pattern of easterly surface winds found in the tropics, within the lower portion of the Earth's atmosphere, in the lower section near the Earth's equator. The trade winds blow predominantly from the northeast in the northern hemisphere and from the southeast in the southern hemisphere, strengthening during the winter.
Question number 4.
The Yarra Valley is the name given to the region surrounding the Yarra River in Victoria, Australia. The name Yarra Valley is used in reference to the upper region surrounding the Yarra River and generally does not encompass the lower regions including the city and suburban areas, where the topography flattens out, or the upper reaches which are inaccessible.
And the last one, question number 5.
The Sky Deck features 30 viewfinders that help visitors to pinpoint significant landmarks around all parts of Melbourne, along with several free binoculars. There is a small outside area called the terrace which is closed in high winds. There is also a glass cube called the edge.
With that, we come to the end of lecture number 7. If you follow these steps, if you pay attention to everything that we have discussed in this lecture, I'm very sure that you will get a very good score in your read aloud questions. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next Super Series lecture. Also visit the surewayEnglish.com website and look into the video description for more study resources. All the best.